Hi friends, Allie here. In today's tutorial we are going to be making the Boo pumpkin pattern. This pattern has 3 pumpkins that spell out the word Boo, making it perfect for fall and Halloween. We will be using a crochet technique called Intarsia Crochet. If you've never tried it, this is a great introductory pattern for it. We're going to start off with the letter B, and then we're going to make the O, and then you're just going to repeat the instructions to make the second O. These are worked flat in rows and then sewn up at the end. So if you're ready to get started, let's head over to our supply list and let's get started. I'm going to be using a medium 4-weight yarn today, and I have it split up into 2 colors. So we have our main color here. It's going to be the main color of our pumpkin, and we're going to be referring to this as color A. I'm going to be using this off-white cream color, and I have it split up into 2 bobbins. So altogether, we are going to need approximately 180 yards of our main color. I split it into 2 equal bobbins, so these are each about 90 yards each. So an easy way to count out your yardage is to count out 1 yard. You hold up your tail end of your yarn to one of your shoulders, you stretch it across to your other arm, and that's approximately 1 yard. So to get 1 bobbin, I did that 90 times to get 90 yards. So then I rolled that up, and instead of having to do that again, because honestly it kind of hurt my arm, I just weighed that first bobbin, and then I made the second one and just kept weighing it until it matched. So that's one way to do it, or you can just count out another 90 yards. But this is approximately how much we will need, and this is for all 3 of our pumpkins. So we'll need about 180 of our color A, split up into 2 equal bobbins at 90 each. For our color B, this is going to be our contrasting color. This is going to be the color we're using for our letters. So you can choose any color you want. You just want to make sure that it's not too close to our main color, or else it might be hard to read your words. So just make sure that it's far enough away, it contrasts your main color. And we have this split up into 2 bobbins again, so altogether we're going to need about 30 yards, and I split up that into 2, so that's 15 yards for each bobbin. And again, this is going to be enough for all 3 of our pumpkins. So we have a main color, color A, and our contrasting color, which is going to be referred to as color B. Our other supplies include a 4mm or G hook. You'll also need a yarn needle and scissors. And then you'll need something for your pumpkin stems. I'm just using sticks that I cut up from a fallen branch in my yard, and they're about 1 to 2 inches long. You can use whatever you'd like though. You can use cinnamon sticks or a scrap of leather. Really, you can use whatever you'd like to use. And then we will also need fiber fill stuffing. Before we get started, I just wanted to do a little rundown of how to follow along with the graph if you decide to follow along with the graph. For this video, I will have the written instructions on the top of the screen you can follow along with. But if you did want the graph, you can get the B graph and then also the O graph here. These are available on the paid version of this pattern that you can get from my Etsy shop and my Ravelry shop. I know personally for me, I like to follow along with the graph. I find it easy to just have a pen or pencil with me and just mark down the squares when I've done them. I also know that a lot of people who sell patterns, Intarsia patterns, only have a graph. They don't have the written instruction. I know other people only have the written instruction and don't have the graph. So I think it's a good thing to know how to read the graph and then also the written instruction, just in case you come across a design you really like and it has one or the other, not both. So for this graph, we have squares all around. If you can see, this is broken up into squares. Each square on this graph represents 1 single crochet. So for this entire pattern, we will be working single crochet. Row 1 will be worked as a foundation single crochet to get us started, but every row after that will just be plain single crochet. So when you start your rows, when you reach the end, we're going to chain 1, turn, work on the next row, and that's how every row will end. All of our odd number rows will be worked on the right side of our work. So as you see here, our B is facing forward. This is going to be what the outside of our pumpkin looks like. So when we're working our odd number rows, so starting with 1, that's going to be the right side of our work. When we get to row 2, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to be working on the wrong side of our work, meaning that the inside of our pumpkin is going to be facing us. So one thing you're always going to want to keep in mind is that when you are working on the right side, you want all of your tail ends to be on the opposite side of you, on the wrong side. And then when you're working on the wrong side, you want all those tail ends facing you, because you want your right side to be nice and clean, and then have all those ugly ends on the inside so that you can't see them. So each square represents one single crochet, and then when we get to the color changes, this is why this is such a great pattern for introductory into Intarsia Crochet, because we only are using 2 colors, and there's like this one shape is fairly easy to follow along with. We're only going to be using 4 bobbins, so this is pretty easy to follow along. It might look intimidating, but as long as you keep your bobbins organized, meaning at the end of each row, it'd be a good idea to line them all up, because once we're turning back and forth, your yarn can get twisted really easy. So I find after every row, just reorganize your yarn. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it. If you do want to get these crafts, you can head over to my Etsy shop or my Ravelry shop. I'll leave some links below, and then you'll be able to, this will come with the pattern as well as the written instructions. There's photos in there, there's explanation of everything in there as well. You can get these, and then it's really easy to just print them off, and I like to have a pen with me when I'm working on these and just mark off either your stitches, your rows, however you want to work it, so you know exactly where you are. So that's our little introductory to Intarsia Crochet. I hope that explains it. While we get working, you'll really see how it works out, and it is much easier than you might think. So let's get moving on to our pattern. So I am going to grab one of my strands of my color A. So we're going to start with the beginning of our pattern, and I need my hook, and we're going to start off with a foundation single crochet. So to do so, we're going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 2, and working into that very first chain we worked, so the second chain from the hook, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up this loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop on our hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on our hook. So this is our first foundation single crochet. So that first pull through that we did, it created this little chain on our on the bottom. So now we're going to work into that to create our second foundation single crochet. So we're going to continue that along, and you're just going to keep adding a new stitch into that chain that we keep creating, and that's going to be working our chain as well as our single crochet all together. So this is just, instead of having to work a chain and then work all the way back into your chain, it just takes away one of those rows. So now what we're going to do, working into that chain that we made down here, we're going to insert our hook, make sure you're working into 2 loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that first loop, so there's that chain. We're going to be working our next stitch in 2, yarn over, pull through both loops. So now we have 2. So we're going to repeat that all the way across for a total of 41 foundation single crochets. I just reached the end, so I worked 41 foundation single crochets. So this is what that's looking like now. So I just reached the end of row 1, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So now we're working on the wrong side of our pattern, and we are going to be on row 2 now. So for rows 2 all the way till rows 8, so the end of row 8, we are just going to be working 1 single crochet into each stitch across. When we reach the end of a row, we will chain 1 and turn. So we're going to be sticking with color A for this whole time. So for the next 7 rows, so rows 2 to 8, we're just going to be working 1 single crochet into each stitch across, when you get to the end of a row, we'll chain 1 and turn, and single crochet across again. So I'm just going to continue along, and I'm going to catch up with you guys at the end of row 8. So remember, at the end of each row, our stitch count is going to remain at 41, and it's going to stay at 41 for the entire pattern. So I'm just going to continue along, and I'll catch up with you guys at the end of row 8. So I reached the end of row 8, and I've chained 1 and turned. So this is what we're looking like so far. We just have a strip of our main color. So we take a look at our chart here. When we start row 9, we're going to start with our main color, and then we're going to do our first color change. So we have to count the number of blocks at the beginning here. So we're going to start off with 18 single crochets in our main color. So we're going to work 18 single crochets. I'm on 17, and then I need to work 18. But before I finish off this last stitch, that's when I'm going to make my color change. So I'm just going to start the 18th single crochet, and instead of finishing off that final pull through with my main color here, I'm going to drop that, pick up one of my color B bobbins. So for me, that's going to be this black one, and we're going to make our color change. So we still have our 2 loops on our hook from our main color. I'm just going to wrap around this new color, wrap it around my hook, and pull through with the new color. So here I still have our 18 single crochets. That last one, it looks like the main color is that top stitch, but we've changed our color so that we're ready to start that next stitch with the new color, and it's just going to seam really nicely. So we are going to be working 7 single crochets with our color B. So going straight into that next stitch, that's 1, and we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and for our 7th stitch, we're going to start off with our color B, but we're going to end with our other color. So we're going to drop that, and we have to pick up our color A again. Now this strand that we had here, this bobbin, that's too far away to stretch over. If we try and stretch that over, it's going to cinch up our project here. So I'm going to grab my other bobbin from color A. So grab your other bobbin of your color A, and just like we did with that other color change, we're just going to wrap the new one around, pull through with that new color, leave the other color there. So I guess I should mention too, once we drop a color that we've already used, we're not going to cut it off or anything. You just leave it there, and we're going to come back to it when we come and work the next row. So we are back to using color A. We are onto our 2nd bobbin of color A. So for the final stitches, we are just going to single crochet across using our color A. So that is 16 stitches with our color A here. So we're just going to continue all the way to the end of row 9. We're just at the end of row 9. I'm going to chain 1. So this is what it's looking like so far. That's the bottom of our B. Get the graph out so you can see. So we just worked that line. So this is the right side of our work. This was worked on the right side of our work. So all of our tail ends are hidden in the back. Now we're going to turn our work. If you notice that your bobbins get all twisted when you turn, you can just reorganize them quickly before starting again. So now we are on to row 10. So row 10, now if you follow our chart, we're going to be working this way. So we're going to be working from left to right when we're on a even numbered row. So for row 10, we are going to start with our color A, and we are going to work 16 stitches across with color A. Okay, I'm on the 16th stitch, so I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and then I'm going to drop color A and change to my color B. But since we are now on the wrong side of our work, I want to make sure that this tail end, but instead of leaving it behind me, I'm going to bring it to the front so that our tail end is left on the wrong side. So I'm going to bring that into the front and then grab this color B bobbin that's just underneath here. So I'm going to pull through that new color, and then we are going to be working 8 single crochets across using our color B. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on our 8th stitch we are going to finish off with our color A. So drop color B, making sure you drop it in front. Pick up color A bobbin that is right underneath here. And we are going to pull through with color A, and then we're going to finish off the row with color A. Okay, so we're just at the end of row 10. I'm going to chain 1, turn, and this is what we're looking like now. So I'm sure by now you kind of have a better idea of what we're doing. So I'm going to try and go through each row a little quicker so that this video isn't insanely long. So now that we are on to row 11, we're going to be working 17 across with our color A. So I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to start with my color A, drop it, pick up our color B bobbin that is just underneath here. We're working on the right side, so make sure your tail ends are on the back. And now we are going to work 2 with our color B. So 1, 2. On our second one, we're going to finish off with our color A. So now this is a point where if you wanted, you could start another new bobbin, but since it's only 2 stitches away, I'm going to grab that bobbin we just had used for our color A. I'm going to stretch that over because we're only stretching it 2 stitches, so that's not too far apart. Just make sure you're not stretching it so tight that it's going to cinch up your work. So I'm going to finish off with color A, and then I am going to work 3 stitches with color A. So 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to finish that 3rd stitch with color A. I'm going to drop it, and then this is the point where we need our second bobbin in color B. So I'm going to grab another bobbin. Seeing as now this is 3 stitches away, that's a little too far for my comfort to reach that other bobbin over, so I'm going to start a new bobbin. I don't know if I can find my tail end here. Okay, so I'm starting off my second bobbin of color B, pull through, and then we are going to be working 2 stitches with our color B. So 1, 2, don't finish off that stitch. We're going to drop color B, pick up color A. So we have one that's down here, just below it. I'm going to pick that one up, pull through, and then we're going to finish this row off with color A. So just work all the way to the end with color A. Okay, so I'm at the end of row 11, that was. So now we're on to row 12. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. For row 12, we are going to work 17 with color A. Okay, I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to start off with color A, drop it on the same side as I'm working on right now, pick up my color B, and then we're going to work 2 with color B. So finish off with that one, and then 1, 2, drop color B, pick up color A, so I have one right below there. And then we're going to work 3 with color A. 1, 2, 3, drop color A, pick up color B, 2 with color B, 1, 2, drop color B. So again, we have to stretch this color A back over. So I'm just gonna tuck down this color B down here, pick up color A, stretch it over, and finish off that stitch with color A. And then we're gonna work color A all the way across. Okay, so we're at the end of row 12. Chain 1 and turn. And this is what we're looking like so far. My bobbins are a little disorganized, so I'm going to quickly organize those before we move on to the next row. Okay, we are now on to row 13. So for row 13, we are going to work 18 across with color A. Okay, so I'm on the 18th stitch, so I'm going to start off with color A, drop it, and finish off with color B. And then I'm going to work 6 across with color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the 6th one, I'm going to drop color B and finish off with color A. And then we're going to work color A all the way across. Okay, so we're at the end of row 13. This is what we're looking like so far. So we have exactly half of our B done. So now we're on to row 14. So chain 1, turn, reorganize your bobbins if you need. And for row 14, we're going to work 17 across with color A. So I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to start with color A, drop it in front here, pick up color B, and we're going to work 6 with color B. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Finish off with color A. We're going to work color A all the way across. Okay, so we're just coming up to the end of row 14. chain one and turn. So this is what we're looking like so far. Okay, so now we're on to row 15, where you're going to work 17 across with color A. I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to finish off with color B. And with color B, we are going to work 2 across. And then we're going to drop color B, pick up color A. So again, I'm going to stretch over the color A bobbin we were just using. And then we are going to work 3 with color A. 1, 2, 3. Finish off with color B, picking up the bobbin that's down here. And we're going to work 2 with color B. Finish off that second one with color A. And then we're going to work color A all the way to the end. So that's the end of row 15. We're going to chain 1 and turn. For row 16, we're going to do 17 across with color A. I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to start with color A, drop it in front here, pick up color B, 2 with color B, 1, 2, finish that off with color A, so I'm going to drop this in front and go back and pick up the color A bobbin we were just using. Oh, sorry, never mind. Never mind, sorry, I have one right here, so I don't need to drag that one across. So pick up that color A bobbin that you have right below it. And we're going to work 3 with color A. 1, 2, 3. Finish that one off with color B. There's one right below it. So pick that one up and work 2 with color B. 1, 2. Finish off that second one. And this one we're going to drag across that color A bobbin we had just used. So finish that one, and then we're going to work color A all the way to the end of this row. Okay, so that's the end of row 16. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. So we are getting very close. We only have, 2 more rows left of our B. So for row 17, we are going to do 17 color A across. So I'm on the 17th stitch, so I'm going to start with color A, drop it, pick up color B, and we're going to work 8 with color B. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On that 8th stitch, we're going to finish off with color A. And then we're going to work color A all the way to the end. Okay, at the end of row 17, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And this is going to be our last row with our color B in it. So we are going to work 16 with color A. I'm in the 16th stitch, so I'm going to finish that off with color B, making sure that tail end is in front of me here. So pick up color B, and we are going to work 7 color B across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on that 7th stitch we're going to change to color A, and then we're going to work color A all the way across. Okay, we're at the end of row 18. I'm going to chain 1 and we'll turn. Before I turn, now that we're done with our color B, we're also done with our color A bobbin that's over here. So for the rest of this pattern, we're just going to finish off with the bobbin we have attached. We're going to finish all the rows off with that. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut these off just so that I don't keep getting tangled. It's much faster to work without these attached, so I'm just going to cut them all off, leave a couple inches. If you want, you can weave them all in on this side. To be honest, I never weave these in, I just leave them because they're going to be hidden on the inside anyways. But if you want, you can weave those all in. So I'm just going to get these bobbins that I'm not using out of the way. Okay, so now I'm on to row 19. I'm going to turn my work. So there we have our B. So all we're going to do, so row 19 we're on now, from rows 19 all the way to the end of row 26, we're just going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across. When you reach the end, chain 1, turn. So we're just going to continue that on. So I'm going to catch up with you guys when I reach the end of row 26. So I just reached row 26, so I just chained 1, and when we look at the right side of our work, this is what it looks like. So now we're going to tie off our yarn. So I'm going to cut off, leaving about a 24-inch tail. So a fairly long tail because we have a lot of weaving in to do. So just approximately 24 inches, and just cut that off. Put that bobbin to the side because we're going to need it for our other pumpkins. And then I'm just going to pull that tail end through and pull that tight. So now I'm going to fold this in half, bringing the short ends together, and I want the wrong side of my work facing out. So I'm going to fold this over so the right side is on the inside and the wrong side is on the outside. I'm going to grab my yarn needle, and I'm going to take that 24-inch tail we just made and put that into my needle, and then we are going to whip stitch these 2 short ends together. So this is going to be at the back of our pumpkin, so you don't have to worry too much about making sure it's super neat and clean. You're not going to really be able to see it. So for a whip stitch, we're going to insert our needle, pull through, and then go back on that same side we just came through and pull through again. And we're just going to repeat that all the way across, trying to work into each row that we created because we don't want any large gaps or anything in the back here. So I'm just going to work all the way across. Okay, we reached the other end. So now I'm at the bottom of our pumpkin, and that's what that's looking like. So now we're going to close up the bottom of our pumpkin. So in all of these stitches here on the bottom, we're just going to weave our tail end in and out. I'm going to work into every second stitch, and I'm just going to weave in and out every second stitch all the way around the bottom of the pumpkin. I'm back at the beginning, so I'm just going to pull that tight, and that's going to close up the bottom of our pumpkin. So I'm just going to pull it nice and tight until it closes up the bottom. And then I'm going to tie off. I have this tail end left here, so I'm just going to tie it off to this. If you don't have a tail end there, if you had already weaved it in or something, then you can just tie this tail end off to the bottom with a couple knots. I'm just going to tie that, and then I'm going to cut off this end here. But I'm going to save this to use again, so I'm just going to set that aside for right now. So we are going to flip this right side out. So this is what we're looking like so far. So we have our bottom all cinched up. So now we're going to grab our fiber fill and we're going to stuff our pumpkin. And you can stuff yours as much or as little as you want. It depends on how squishy or stiff you want it to be. So just grab as much as you want and start filling it up. Okay, I have mine as much as I want to be filled. So now I'm going to reattach this tail end here. Mine is still quite long. If you used up a lot when we were closing up the bottom and stuff, you can get a new strand. We just need enough. We're going to weave in around the top, and then we're going to create our pumpkin segments. So I'm just going to start on the back of my pumpkin here, and I'm just going to attach my yarn with a few knots. Tuck that tail end on the inside, and just like the bottom, I'm going to weave my tail end through the top stitches, and I'm going to work in every second stitch again. I'm back at the beginning. So now I'm just going to pull this tight, and that's going to cinch up our top there. Now, since this is the top of our pumpkin, we're going to want to leave a little bit of a hole there for our stem to fit in. So just make sure that you have at least a little bit of a hole, large enough that your stem can fit in. And I'm just going to secure this with a few knots on the top. Okay, and if you really wanted, you can just leave your pumpkin like this, but I'm going to create the pumpkin segments, and to do so, we're just going to wrap this tail end around our pumpkin like this. So I guess I'm going to start at the back because that's where our yarn is. So I'm just going to wrap it down, and then you're going to insert your needle through the bottom, and you're going to poke up through the top. You want it to get right through that center hole. Okay, so I'm going to try and cover up my seam there, because I mean, may as well. So when you pull that, it's going to squish your pumpkin down and give you those segments. So I'm going to do that all the way around. You can do that as many times as you want. Obviously, the more times you do it, the more segments you're going to have. So it all depends on how many you want. Just be sure when you come around to the letter side that you're not putting your strand over your letter. You want to work around it. So I think my next one, I'm going to work around it, just right beside it. So pull down, go through the bottom, back through the top, and then I'm going to go to the other side of my letter, making sure not to cover it up, down through the bottom, up through the top, before I pull that tight, I'm just going to make sure I have it even with this other one. Okay, and then I'm going to work, I think, 2 more to even these ones out a little bit, but like I said, you can work as many or as few as you like. Okay, so I just worked my last one. This is what it is looking like. So I have 5 segments. So now that I'm done, I'm gonna tie off this tail end just right at the top. So just work a few knots to secure this. Okay. And then I'm just going to take this tail end here, go down through the top, out the bottom, and then I'm just going to cut off my yarn. So that tail end is just going to be hidden inside of the pumpkin there. Okay. We flip it around. This is what our bee pumpkin is looking like. So you can stick your stem through the top. If you kind of ended up closing up your hole at the top from weaving in, or if you just want to make sure your stem is extra secure, you can use a little bit of hot glue or fabric glue on your stem to just make sure that it doesn't fall out and it stays in there nice. Mine sticks in pretty well though. So there we go. There is our B. So now we're going to move on to our O. So now we are going to make our O, and we're going to have to make 2 of these. So in the video I'm only going to make 1, and then you're just going to have to repeat the instructions that we're starting now to make your second O. So as you can see from this graph, it actually starts off rows 1 to 8 are the exact same as the B. So we're going to grab our color A. So grab one of your color A bobbins. You'll notice that your bobbins, you have one that has less than the other now because we use that first one that we started with on the last pumpkin. We use that one a little bit more. So I'm going to use my color A bobbin that has more in it now. And we're going to start off with our foundation single crochet, just like we did with our bee pumpkin. And we're going to work 41 foundation single crochets. So if you don't remember how to do it or you just want another explanation, we are going to start with a slip knot, chain 2, working into the second chain from the hook or that very first chain that we worked. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that first loop on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops on your hook. And that was our first foundation single crochet. So to work our next one, we're going to work through that chain here that we have down at the bottom. We're going to work through that, making sure you work through both the loops, in 2 loops there. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that first loop on your hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. So there we have 2. So we're going to continue that across for a total of 41 foundation single crochets. Okay, so I just reached the end of our row 1, our foundation single crochet row. So we should have a total of 41 stitches across, just like our bee pumpkin. It is going to remain 41 stitches across for the whole pattern. So now I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and now we are on to row 2. And for rows 2 to 8, we are just going to work 1 single crochet across in each stitch across for a total of 41 single crochets across, all in color A. So starting with row 2 and all the way to the end of row 8, we're just going to be using our color A and working 1 single crochet into each stitch across. When you get to the end of each row, we will chain 1 and turn. So I'm just going to continue on, and I'm going to catch up with you guys at the end of row 8. So I just finished row 8, so I have chained 1, and now I'm going to turn. And now we're on row 9, and row 9 is going to be our first row that starts our letter O. So we're going to start off with 18 in color A. On our 18th stitch, we're going to start off with color A and then drop it. Since we're working on the right side of our work right now, I'm going to drop it behind me, and then I'm going to pick up my color B bobbin, and then we're going to work 5 with color B. So finish off that stitch, and then work 5 with color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the 5th one, we're going to drop color B, and we're going to start a new bobbin for color A. So we're starting off our second color A bobbin. Finish off that stitch, and then finish the row with color A. Okay, so we're just at the end of row 9. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're on to row 10. For row 10, we are going to work 17 with color A. So on the 17th stitch, I'm going to drop my color A in front of me, pick up my color B bobbin. I'm just going to stretch this one over. So finish off with color B, and then we're going to work 7 with color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on that 7th one, we're going to drop it, pick up color A, finish off that stitch, and then work color A to the end of the row. So I'm just at the end of row 10. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. So the letter O is much simpler than the letter B. So for the next 6 rows, so rows 11, so we're on row 11 now. So rows 11 to 16 are all going to be worked the same way. So we're going to start off with 17 color A. 1, on the 17th stitch, I'm going to switch to color B. We're going to work 2 with color B. 1, 2. On that second one, we are going to change to color A, and I'm just going to stretch over this color A bobbin we were just going to use, or sorry, that we had just used. And then we're going to work 3 with color A. 1, 2, 3. On that third one, we're going to drop it, and now we're going to start our second color B bobbin. So attach that new bobbin, and we're going to work 2 with color B. 1, 2. On that second one, we are going to drop color B, pick up color A, and then we're going to work color A all the way to the end. I'm just at the end of row 11. I'm going to chain 1. So I'm just going to repeat what I did for row 11. So that was 17 in color A, 2B, 3A, 2B, 17A. We're going to repeat that until the end of row 16. So chain 1 and turn. So we're going to repeat what we just did. 17 with color A, then 2 with color B, then 3 with color A, 2 with color B, and then 17 with color A. So I'm just going to repeat that until I get to the end of row 16. So I'm going to catch up with you guys at the end of row 16. So I just reached the end of row 16. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, so that's what our O is looking like so far. So we just have 2 more rows to finish up the O. So now we're on to row 17. For row 17, we're going to work 17 across with color A. Okay, on that 17th stitch, we are going to switch over to color B, and we're going to work 7 with color B. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On that 7th one, we're going to change to color A, and we're going to finish the row off with color A. Okay, so that's the end of row 17. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, and now we're on to row 18. For row 18, I'm going to work 18 across with color A. And on that 18th stitch, I'm going to switch over to color B, and I'm going to work 5 with color B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then switch over to color A, and then we're going to finish the row off with color A, and I'm going to cut off all of my other bobbins now. So make sure you don't cut off the one that you're using. So we can cut off the 2 color Bs and then the 1 other color A. Okay, and then we're going to finish the row with color A. Okay, so that's the end of row 18, chain 1 and turn. Now we're on to row 19, and just like the B, rows 19 all the way to the end of row 26, we are just going to be working single crochet all the way across using color A. So we're going to finish off the rest of the pattern just with color A. And we're going to repeat this all the way to the end of row 26. So I'm going to continue on doing this, and I'll catch up with you guys at the end of row 26. So I just got to the end of row 26 and I chained 1, and now I'm going to tie off my yarn. I'm going to cut it, leaving about 24 inches again. And just pull that through. Okay, and then we're going to finish off this pumpkin the same way we did with our letter B pumpkin. So we're just going to fold this in half, whip stitch up, cinch in our bottom, and then finish up the top, make our segments. So I'm just going to quickly do this off camera, and then I'll catch up with you guys when we're done our pumpkin. If you need to see how we did that again, you can just rewind and go back and watch how we did that with the letter B. So I just finished up my first O pumpkin, and there it is. I've added my stem and everything now. So if you've only finished your first one, then just repeat the instructions again for the O pumpkin to make your second one. So you should have 1 B and 2 O's, and then you're all done. So just repeat your instructions again to make 2 O's, and then you'll have your 3 pumpkins that spell out boo. Thank you so much for following along. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook. You can find this pattern and many more free patterns on my blog whoshomemade.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.